everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to dive into the minds of 4 of my good friends. I'm going to ask them all about their favourite game, and then we're going to play each one and compare notes. So without further ado, let's introduce person number 1.
Hey Tom, thanks for having me on your channel. I'm going to go retro of my choice and pick what I consider a classic, Abe's Exodus.
His scarred hand branded on Moon's odd face, this hero may free the Modakan grace. With skin of blue and spirit guides too, only he can save our bones from brew. But shall he fall to block and yoke? Modakan nation be doomed to croak.
Abe's Exodus is one of my favourite games because it was the first one that showed me the potential of video games to tell a complex story and to be so immersive. For me, the story is very important and closely linked to the gameplay. The objective of the game is to save NPCs from a capitalist race of creatures called Glukkons, and it very much champions the underdog and promotes the idea that the individual can change the world. Maybe I'm looking too deeply into it, but for me the story and the themes that it deals with really open my mind. It feels like the narrative influenced the gameplay rather than being second to it, which I feel was the case for earlier games. I must admit I haven't played any of the Oddworld series in quite a while, however it is being remade for the PS5 under the new name of Soulstorm. A trailer dropped in June and it looks quite impressive, so I'll have to check it out when it's released. So it reminds me of a very specific time in my life. It was released back in 1998, so I was a mere 10 years old. It left a big impression on me. The first game in the series, Abe's Odyssey, had been released the year before, and I think I found them both at the same time, played them back to back. The protagonist Abe is a friendly humanoid creature with stitched lips and wide fish-like eyes and a very creepy voice. In fact, I'd say the whole game is quite a dark feel. The first game being about saving your fellow Modokans from being made into meat popsicle. And Exodus was even darker, revolving around the production of a drink called Soulstorm Brew that was made from the bones and the tears of Modokans. Needless to say, I was having nightmares about this for months, and I'd only play it during the daytime. I'm not sure how long I spent playing this game. It probably has less than 10 hours gameplay for an experienced gamer, but I was 10 years old. I'd probably spent months on this game, especially because it has 2 different endings. You're required to rescue 150 or more of your Modakan friends throughout the course of the game to get the good ending. If you fail to do this, which of course I did many times, Abe meets a nasty fate, to say the least, adding further trauma to my young mind. I can't say I've taken part in the community around this game, though I do remember the official website in the late 90s. It posted fan mail and more information about the expanded universe in which the game takes place. I remember being fascinated, and it opened my young eyes to the fact that thousands of other people were sharing in Abe's struggle against the Glukkon.
Okay.
I think the best thing about Abe's Exodus was how it expanded on how revolutionary Abe's Odyssey had been in the first place, taking the 2-dimensional platform game format to new levels of gameplay and storytelling. A massive component of both of these games was what they call game speak, allowing Abe to give commands to NPCs. In Exodus, the Modokans have different emotional states and you have to deal with them in different ways. Also, you could communicate with multiple Modokans at the same time, which was an interesting evolution of gameplay from the original. But ultimately, it was the story that captured me. and left such a big impression on me. But looking at YouTube today, it appears there was less than 30 minutes of computer animated cutscenes sprinkled throughout the game. But that was enough for me to be fully immersed in the world. The worst thing about Abe's Exodus, in retrospect, was that it wasn't meant to be the next game in the series. A quintology had originally been planned within the Oddworld universe. Given the success of Abe's Odyssey, they were under a lot of pressure to create a sequel. It was built on the same engine, and it was made extremely quickly, something daft like less than 9 months. It's quite impressive, really. But this divergence from the original plan was never rectified, and despite releasing a few more games set in this shared universe, that original quintology is still incomplete over 20 years later. Well, I hope you've enjoyed playing it, Tom. I look forward to hearing your thoughts. Until next time, take care, bro.
Okay, so Abe's Exodus, where to start? So this was, I'm so torn about this game. I do remember playing the original back on PS1. I think it was on the demo disc that came with the PS1. But I do remember playing the full, or as much as the full game as I really could not get very far in this game when I was younger. I don't know if I was just too young to understand what was going on, or if it was just a little bit too hardcore for me at the time. But so I was actually relishing chance to play the second one, and I kind of love it and hate it at the same time. And the main reason why I struggled was due to, I don't know if the controls have aged somewhat, or if I was playing on a weird, because I was playing on PC, and it was on this Steam version, and so I was playing with an Xbox One pad, which kind of, I could have reassigned all the buttons to be more familiar, but by the time I'd relearned the controls, I didn't want to change anything, so it's probably slightly my own fault. But it was a ridiculous number of hours into the game until I learnt certain things, like it all came like kind of bit by bit. It took me ages to figure out basic controls, and then I couldn't work out what button sneaking was for a little while, and then I didn't know that you could go straight into a roll whilst you were running, and the jumping while running as well. Like two things that were really, really important for doing a lot of the platforming. I didn't catch on until really late in the game, so it was so a lot of it was really tough, and I was getting frustrated because I was like, well, how on earth am I supposed to do this? But obviously it's just me not knowing the controls very well. But I completely agree with with what everyone was saying about the storytelling. It was a fantastic story, especially at the time, because games, especially mainstream games at the time, didn't really have a massive amount in the way of story. There were certain ones popping up. Metal Gear Solid comes to mind, and other kind of PlayStation 1 classics, and I'm sure there was some for other consoles as well, and like a lot of Nintendo games will have had quite fleshed out like RPG style stories and things like that. But yeah, so I was kind of like, all the way through I was wanting to really love the game, and at certain parts when everything clicked and you pulled off something that was really tough and you were struggling to do, I thought it worked really well. But I do think that the controls have either not aged too well, or I'm playing on playing on the Steam version with an Xbox controller is not the way to do it. Maybe, I'm not sure. Probably playing on a PS1 with a PS1 controller is the way that you should be doing it, because that's what it was designed for. But unfortunately, I don't think I have the facility to do that. I might have a PS2 somewhere, but finding it and getting all that set up to then capture HDMI is probably not great. So I did play through to the end. I missed one Madokan. Now this is another thing that I don't know if it's the same. So you can do on the PC version, you can do a quick save, so you can save it at any point, and I'm not sure if that's true of the PlayStation version. So if it's not, if this is something new to the PC version, then that makes the game so much easier. And so my struggles were tiny compared to what you would be going through if you were playing on PS1 back in the day. If that is the case, I'm not sure if you could do a quick save, but you could definitely save to a memory card, but that would be much more laborious than this like an instant quick save that the PC version has. So it's my first experience with the game for a really long time. As I was looking for hints and things like this on YouTube about how to do certain sections, I started to get quite a bit of Oddworld themed videos suggested in YouTube, and so like Aaron was saying, there's new games coming. They all look really interesting, and obviously the graphics are a lot better, and the series is still unfinished. I still think that the conversation mechanic is one of the most inventive I've seen in a platformer, where you can speak to the other Madokans and tell them to follow and stop, and you can possess enemies. And then interestingly, I was watching a review with the developer, and he said that he was adamant from the start that Abe should not carry a gun. And everyone who we spoke to about making the game was trying to convince him otherwise, saying it's not going to be half as fun if your character's not powerful and progressing and getting more powerful as the game goes on. And so the whole mechanic of being able to possess a guard to then have a gun but temporarily was his way of kind of appeasing them, but also making it true to the kind of style of the game, or like to his kind of vision. Whereas Abe should be able to be powerful and save all of his friends without ever picking up a weapon. It's only vicariously through the possessing the enemies that a weapon even comes into play, which you do have to use in some parts of the game if you want to save everyone. So it's still firing a weapon, but really admirable to try and make a game where basically your character never picks up a weapon, and still manages to overcome a huge, is it a corporation or an organisation that's armed to the teeth, and is out for Abe's blood. Although saying that, I did die a ridiculous number of times. Maybe this is the Dark Souls of the PS1 era, who knows. But yeah, my personal best thing about it would be just the world and game design in general. The best games all have mechanics that relate to the world that you're in and feel natural, and allow you to unravel the story of the world that you're in through your actions as a player. And the whole the conversation mechanic and the animations and all the different all the beautiful kind of background artwork that still kind of, for a PS1 game, it wasn't uncomfortable to go back to graphics like that, because it was all artistically done. Now if you were to play a PS1 game where they were trying to be 3D and everything was 3D, some of those you go back to now, and even if they were a game that you loved back in the day, you can't play it anymore. It's a bit like with the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 remaster, trying to play the first Tony Hawk's with not any of the updated versions. It's just, I played those to death when I was a kid, but you can't go back to it now. Whereas things like Final Fantasy had a lot of baked in kind of textures and things like that that just still make those games playable still to this day. So I mean, it's just a work of art basically. But yeah, so thanks to Aaron for suggesting Abe's Exodus. I did have a lot of fun. I had a fair bit of frustration, but a lot of fun getting to the end of this. But overall, still fantastic series, fantastic game. So yeah, thanks Aaron, and let's move on to the next one.
Hello, my name is Tenoki. I am 28 years old and I'm from Northern Ireland. I've been asked to answer a few questions by From Tom about my favourite game, and so let's go into some detail. So, choosing a favourite game is quite difficult for me, but one that definitely resonates with me most would be the Dark Souls series, specifically Dark Souls 1. Why it's my favourite is just the sheer difficulty of it. I have spent so many hours across so many platforms playing the game that for the longest time it just became the thing that I always wanted to play, no matter what it was I was doing. Any single player games, multiplayer games, I always came back to Dark Souls. I love the challenge. Just being beaten over and over again, be it by a particular difficult boss, be it by other players, be it whatever the case may be. I just love the satisfaction of coming out on top and fighting tooth and nail to be able to overcome any obstacle that's in my way. I would still play it on occasion. I also play a lot of its other games, such as Dark Souls 2 and 3, and I have every intention at some point, the famous last words of any gamer, at some point to play Sekiro. But I haven't been playing it in the last couple of months sheer just due to being busy and playing other games with other people. But I would still occasionally go back and play it.
In the age of ancients, the world was unformed, shrouded by fog.
When it comes to a particular time in my life of playing it, it consumed a large part of my life for a couple of years. I used to play it all the time with friends, and I would have the funnest memories, such as cosplaying, or as they call it, fashionscaping. Fashion soulsing, wrong game, as one of the NPCs in the starting area, and going through the entire game wearing their armour and using their weapons and beating the whole game with him as my summon, and also beating any invaders. And it was so much fun. It was just hilarious going through, and the amount of random messages we got from people was just absolutely hilarious. So yeah, in regards to the amount of hours I've spent playing it, I think I've probably logged about 3,000 hours across all of the Souls series. I couldn't tell you exact time frames due to how they've been split between the games, but it is what it is. I haven't taken part specifically in any of the Souls the producer made events, but I have been quite forward about supporting certain content creators such as Sunlight Blade, Ouroboros, back in his heyday of doing lots of PvP videos, and as well as keeping up to date with the likes of speedrunners and such to see perfect times, and it all is just extremely interesting. The best thing about Dark Souls is it's kind of the best and the worst thing about it is just how unforgiving it is across all the games, including Bloodborne. And it's amazing because it really pushes you to your limit and makes you go further than you sometimes initially thought you could. But also at times the amount of anger and frustration it can cause can also be a tad detrimental when it comes to the outside world, such as, maybe getting a bit too angry and breaking your desk or your controller, or insert object, or shouting at someone because someone got that perfect parry on you and you decided that it was all the person who was talking to you's fault, when really you just need to get good. That is my experience with Dark Souls, and I'm happy to answer any more questions about it.
So, Dark Souls. If you've seen anything of this channel already, you know that I already love Dark Souls. I've played it a bunch of times, many hours. I'm not sure if I quite hit the 3,000 that Tenoki mentioned, but maybe, I don't know. In fact, let me have a look at my Steam library. So, according to Steam, I played 741 point something or other hours, and that's on the PC version. I've also played a little bit on the remaster for PS4, but to be honest, not a massive amount. I don't think I even got. Did I get all the trophies? Don't think I got. I might have platinumed it. I can't remember. But anyway, so not quite the 3,000 that Tenoki mentioned there. But then again, probably if you add up the hours from Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, Bloodborne, and I have beaten Sekiro, which. Any game in the Soulsborne series, as was mentioned, is just, the challenge is off the charts. The only way that I actually got into the first Dark Souls, it was recommended to me by a good friend from college, Matt, and he said, "You'll love this game, Tom. Play it." And I took on board the recommendation, but I didn't get it for a while. And then when I did buy it, it was cheap on Steam. It was quite a few years after release. I played it for a little bit and kind of went, yeah, it's all right. I can see I can kind of see the appeal slightly, but then I put it down for a little bit, and I think I was in the first bonfire in the Undead Burg, and getting absolutely destroyed by the Black Knight there, I believe. And I just kind of thought, maybe it was just a bit too much, and I was like, well, whatever. And so I was speaking to Matt, who'd recommended the game, and he suggested that I watch this chap called Epic Namebro, and so I started watching one of his playthroughs of Dark Souls, and seeing him play it in the way he was playing it, just made me I don't know, it made me give it a second chance, and from then on, that led me to the first overcoming the first big hurdle, the first main boss of the story. I watched him fight that boss, so I knew how to do it. But after that, I was determined that I was gonna find out things for myself, and stay away from his walkthroughs until I'd beaten the challenge myself. Every time you turn around a corner in that game, or go to a new area, or find a new enemy, or meet a new boss, you pushed up against a wall, and the game goes, no, you're not going past until you know the attacks of this enemy, or you've leveled up enough to be able to tank through the attacks of this enemy. Just like Tenoki was saying, the feeling you get from overcoming what seems to be an impossibility at first is incredible. I remember in Bloodborne, there's a boss in the DLC who's renowned for absolutely destroying people, and a lot of people actually give up on. I almost gave up on that boss. It's called, the boss is the Orphan of Kos, and I remember I was in my flat in Chapeltown. This was a few years ago, and loved that flat actually. First place of my own. But anyway, and this is after playing Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2, but before playing Dark Souls 3, so I was already kind of like familiar with the with how the games worked, and so I was fighting this boss, and it took me 3 solid nights of doing nothing else but fighting that boss. And my friend Jack, who you will see later on this video, was present, I believe, when I actually beat him. But before that point, I was so, or maybe he was there the night before actually, when I just raged out and like kind of chucked my controller on the floor and just kind of said, right, I'm never playing this again. And then the following night I picked it up again and actually beat him, and it was like I say, it's that kind of ridiculous amount of challenge. So the level set so high, and you think, I'm never going to do this in a million years. It's like anything. You learn an instrument, and there's one of your favourite songs you try to play along to or something, and it just seems so out of your league, and then practice until you're not thinking about what you're doing, you're just doing. And I think that's where the magic comes in reactionary type games like Dark Souls and things like that. You've got to, for a long time, build up your knowledge of the enemy's attacks, your knowledge of when you should be outputting damage and when you should be defending or dodging, and it's only when all of those things are in the back of your mind and you just solely reacting to the things that are happening on screen that you then are able to somehow magically overcome this challenge that's been put before you. So yeah, I could go on for hours about the Dark Souls series. They kind of revitalized my love for games. It was kind of waning a little bit at that point, I think. But interestingly, when I was playing it on the channel recently, there was just kind of a lot of lethargy. I've been playing that game for a long time, and it was kind of one of the first times I'd felt like kind of I really don't want to be. And so when it came to doing this video and having these 4 games to play, originally it was going to be 8 and there might be more in the future, but anyway, there was so I had these 4 games to play, and it got to playing Dark Souls. I left it to last because I played it recently and wanted to play the other games first, so it gave a bit more time between when I last played it and playing it again, just so I'd be a bit fresher. But there were a few moments in this playthrough, definitely, where I was kind of like, I think I might have played enough Dark Souls. I think I might be good, because I've played so much that now coming back to it, I feel like I want something new. Maybe the next game from Software, Elden Ring, is going to be the something new. Who knows? But you don't want to get your hopes up too much before something comes out. Or maybe Cyberpunk is going to be the thing that just like destroys everything. Who knows? So, but anyway, for this playthrough, just based on what Tenoki he mentioned when he was having a lot of fun online doing like Fashion Souls, and like picking an NPC or picking a character and trying to use their armor and their weapons, and only their armor and weapons, to be able and just like role playing as that character. So that's what I decided to do in this playthrough, to make it a little bit different and a little bit kind of fresh for me as well. So one of the coolest NPCs, I think, is definitely Ornstein, who's one of Lord Gwyn's 4 knights, and he's I don't think he's the coolest NPC. I think if I were to pick my favourite, it would probably be Artorias, but due to time constraints, I kind of thought I should probably leave the DLC out of this video and just concentrate on doing the main game. But what's really cool actually is most of my playthroughs are quite similar, because I want to go everywhere and get all the items and kind of explore everything quite fully before I complete the game and get as much out of it. But because I knew this was just going to be one playthrough, and I wasn't going to like take it to New Game Plus or anything like that. I thought, right, let's try and see if we can kind of not speed run, but like pick and choose what we do, like I would do if I was in New Game Plus and didn't really necessarily need to go everywhere and do everything. And so there's quite a lot of bosses that I didn't fight. There's quite a lot of areas I didn't go to. Completely left out the DLC, which meant there was a fair few areas of the game that I didn't even go to. But it still took like a fair number of hours to complete. I was using a spear all the way through, so a regular spear, and then when I got the chance later in the game, I upgraded a spear to be Ornstein's like boss weapon spear, so I could do the kind of like role playing aspect with his spear and the armor. The only thing that wasn't Ornstein's that I had equipped, I think, was the boulder side shield. But that's just, I always use that shield. It's the best shield. You don't need any other shield unless you need defense from like magic or fire or something. But generally, for the vast majority of the game, just bolt side shield it, and trust me, if you're early in the game as well, if you get the sword to go with that boulder side shield, then that's a like, you know, first 70% of the game is a breeze. Well, he says. But yeah, so I was using a spear for this playthrough, which it's a really interesting one because it's a very defensive weapon, and you can use it whilst you've got your shield up, so you can kind of prod the spear from behind the shield. So you would think with it being a defensive weapon, it's actually quite a safe way to play through. Like, you know, it's quite a... But the thing about the spear is, because it's only thrust attacks, you've got to be quite precise with your aiming, and it doesn't, and because of the defensive kind of capability of it, it doesn't do half as much damage as its like the kind of counterparts where you can't prod from behind a shield. So say you like your halberd weapons, and there's plenty of other like katanas and things like this that would do a lot more damage with you going for kind of a dexterity kind of playthrough. But I thought it's something I'd done, so let's try it. It was some of the I struggled with a lot of bosses that I don't usually struggle with, and then but to be quite honest, I struggled with almost all of the bosses on this playthrough. I don't know if it's because I was just doing a bit relaxed, kind of laid back on the sofa, not really you know, like full on focusing on everything, maybe being a bit too confident, like I know the game too well, even though blatantly a bit rusty, but yeah, it's still a lot of fun to try something different. I didn't really want to do any online stuff, but if you know me, that's just kind of usual. I have done some online stuff in Souls. I think it was Dark Souls 3 that I did the most stuff online. Just like kind of, I did a lot in that game of putting my summon sign down, like help, like being a summon for someone else in someone else's world to help with fighting a boss or clearing out an area. And definitely did that a lot more in Dark Souls 3 than any other of the FromSoft games. I think just because it's the connection was, my internet connection was better at the time, and it was just a lot easier to do than when I was trying to do it on Dark Souls with a community that was, it's a great community for Dark Souls, but I mean, I always struggled to get summons and stuff in Dark Souls 1. Maybe I was just a bit late to the initial party, and then I was a bit Dark Soulsed out when the remaster came out, so I wasn't really playing when that got big again. But yeah, so I had a lot of fun playing Dark Souls again for for the umpteenth time, you know. But yeah, I agree with everything Tenoki said in his answers to the questions there. I have a lot of the same kind of feelings myself. It kind of it's what it does seem to do that to a lot of people. This series of games kind of takes over their life in one way or another for some period of time. But yeah, going back to the community. Watching Epic Name Bros videos, I really liked his YouTube content, but I'm like when he's playing a lot of RPGs that I'm not too familiar with, I'm not on Twitch like all the way through. It's not really my kind of thing. And you have and there's Vidya who does a lot of lore stuff, and he's still very active on YouTube. But kind of, I think I've got enough of the lore that I want from Dark Souls. That kind of itch has been scratched, so I don't think I need much more of that. So I think this is kind of like, it's almost like a, I don't know, it feels like a little bit like a full stop on the Dark Souls series. I'm undoubtedly going to play some of the Souls games again at some point, and I'm kind of halfway through a Bloodborne playthrough on the channel, so that'll kind of carry on. But I feel like definitely for Dark Souls 1, I feel like that's enough. You know, I'm maybe having an urge to play it like years in the future, but it's kind of almost like saying goodbye to an old friend. You know, it's just really bizarre feeling to have about a game, but that just tells you how deep of an impact this game had on me, and has had on obviously Tenoki as well. And you'll find out as well, someone else who's featured in this video it's affected them quite deeply as well. And there's just like anyone who's like, you know, a hardcore kind of single player experience, and like a gamer who really enjoys like a kind of action role play type mix of games where you kind of like playing out this character, but you like a fan of mystery and suspense and all these kind of things, but above all, like you've got to have a lot of patience, and you've got to learn a lot of attacks, and you've got to learn a lot of enemy placements and all these kind of things. Like, if you ask anyone who's played Dark Souls 1 for any amount of time how to get from area A to area B, it's like asking somebody in London how you get from point A to point B. They'll come up with like this plethora of different ways that you could do it, and then be umming and ahhing about which is the fastest, which is the safest. I get London maybe, which is the safest, which is the fastest, which is the most efficient, which way you should go at certain times, and or depending on what gear you've got on you. You know, like there's it's one of those things that it gets into your head, and you end up kind of like living almost like in this world that they've created. It's just it's an amazing series, amazing game. So thank you very much, Tenoki, for the selection, and let's move on to the next one.
So my favourite game, it was going to be Dark Souls, but for some reason Tom let some other cretin take my game. Bit racist, but alright, whatever. So I'm going to go with Football Manager. Can't think of another game I've invested as much time into, but it is a game which I absolutely love and play most days anyway. Reason why it's one of my favourite games. Easy to access, easy to get back into play if you haven't played it for a while. Much easier to pick up on an old save, remember the players, remember the tactics you were using. Just much easier game to get back into. However, if it was something like The Witcher, you turn it back on, haven't played it for a year, can't remember exactly what the buttons are, and you die instantly. Whereas on this, the interface stays the way it was all the way. A few changes in later editions, but easy enough to pick up. It's just a nice simple game to just jump straight back into, carry on playing, and yeah, it always feels good to win on it as well, because it's quite a difficult game. Okay, I do still play both Football Manager and Ultimate Soccer Manager, which was the original football management game I got into. Ultimate Soccer Manager is an MS-DOS game, so very hard to get working on a current PC. You need to have a really old one. I think the last operating system I worked on was Windows Millennium Edition. I think XP occasionally works, sometimes doesn't. However, still play it every so often because I found a website I can do so. Football Manager, play that maybe 3 times a week for a couple of hours. Would like to play longer, don't get to unfortunately. But again, still play it every single day. If I could do, I would do. But Football Manager in general on my phone or iPad, that is generally daily as well. So yeah, still playing it every single day, even though it's a really old game now. Okay, so Ultimate Soccer Manager reminds me of a time in my life when I was a young kid, and often playing football in the garden with Tom. And after we played football for a while, we would be pretty tired because we're kids, we've used a lot of energy, so we'd sit down and have a drink and have some food and turn on the PC. Then we would search around trying to find the disc for Ultimate Soccer Manager, which was so old, it was a floppy disk. Had to move the AOL discs out of the way, the free trial internet, the dial-up, where it's absolutely horrendous, where you wouldn't even be able to watch this video. And then we eventually found it. It's generally already in the PC. We were not the brightest at that point, let's be honest. But then we would sit there and play it, and I remember signing players like George Campos. And he was free transfer. He was one of the best goalkeepers in the game. Edwin van der Sar again, another one. He used to sign Romario as well, and these are big players, but you could get them free on that game. Bit of a weird way to search, but I remember doing that. I remember signing a lot of big players. It was a lot of fun. Desai, he was a good signing as well. But it just reminds me of being a kid again, playing a really simple game and spending time with my friends. And actually, I remember playing football, I think, in the 6-week holiday we have here in the UK, maybe 5 of the 6 weeks. It was wake up in the morning, run round to Tom's house. And it's run, because you're a kid, you don't walk, you run. Try and make sure you don't get hit by any cars while crossing the road, because, look both ways. And then eventually get to Tom's house, which was 2 minutes run, 5-minute walk, so run. And play football for hours, and hope that his cat Felix didn't run onto the pitch and accidentally get kicked by the ball. Generally didn't, but occasionally ran out onto the field, so we had to stop and make sure he was okay. So that was Ultimate Soccer Manager. That's my memory of it. It's a vivid memory now, because I'm old. But still a game that reminds me of my youth and being a kid. Absolutely love it, that's why I still play it. And then Football Manager, I remember playing that as a kid, again around 13, 14, 15 years old. That's when I was really getting into football a bit more and really understanding a lot more about the contract side of it, and due to the in-depth nature of Football Manager, it was much more interesting. Because I remember sitting and playing that for a number of hours under the pretense that I was doing homework. I'm on the computer, I'm doing homework, don't bother me. And then as soon as someone came into the room, Alt and Tab, straight into an inset window or straight onto the work, so no one knew what I was actually doing. I was actually spending hours playing Football Manager, just saying I have a lot of work to do. And no one really questioned me, so it was good. That set us waking up on summer holidays, cup of coffee, cereal, sat there, cereal, cup of coffee, just playing a game where you're not actually doing anything other than just pressing a few buttons and not physically playing anything. But still loved it. I still play it now. So yeah, they are the 2 biggest memories of the games. So the question is, how many hours have I spent playing on the game? Now, I went through my Football Manager and I had to do a bit of maths to figure it all out. On Steam, apparently, according to Steam, I have played Football Manager for 7,483 hours, which equates to just over 311 days. Now that was added up last Sunday, I believe, about a week and a bit ago, maybe. So it's probably more than that now. It's definitely more than that. It's probably going to be around 7,500 hours now. So that's just one game on the Steam platform. Ultimate Soccer Manager, as I said, we played it when we were kids. Only played it for maybe an hour or two. Saved it, turned it all off, and went back out and played football again. So that was a couple of hours every day throughout a 6-week holiday. And it doesn't even include all of the games like Championship Manager 01, 02, all the old Championship Managers, all of the ones that I had beforehand, because Steam starts from, I think it is Football Manager 2009? Maybe wrong. However, that's where it extends from, but as I said, I've got a Football Manager game since 1997. Actually, no, 95 upwards. I think I'm only missing one, which is Football Manager 16, but I have it on my phone. It's not good enough. It needs to be on the PC. Still haven't been bought by anyone. Should be a gift at some point, but no one buys me it. A bit mean, isn't it? No. So, taking part in the community, there isn't a community for Ultimate Soccer Manager, unfortunately. So there's nowhere to really go for that. If you do search it online, you may be able to find best free agents or best signings. That's basically it. Football Manager, however, has a huge community behind it. What I've done within that community is I have published my own tactics, which I use on my games, which I've been quite successful with. Not always winning the games. I know I've lost a number of games, 7-0. Also won a few games against like Barcelona, like 4-0, which I thought was quite good. But then lost to bad teams, which is a bit disappointing. I've contributed to some Discord, some just general discussions where it's player discovery, and occasionally I'll just not contribute, but I'll take from the community as well. And they will have updated badges, they will have updated graphics, updated mods for us. And it's just more and more in-depth things to do within that game, which is already immensely in-depth. I know there's a few databases you can have where you can start in the 9th tier of English football, and the challenge is to take a team from there. Never successfully completed that. Very difficult. I'd like to try it, but I don't think I'll have a chance to do so, unfortunately. But they're the main things that I've done within the community there. So, best things about the games. My opinion, first one, Ultimate Soccer Manager. It's an MS-DOS game, as I've mentioned. Very simple to pick up, click and go, basically. Not difficult to get your head around. In saying that, I've gone back to it in recent times and tried to put my own tactics on there. Found that quite difficult, which is a bit weird. But then again, this is in the 90s. In the UK, we played 4-4-2, that's all we ever played. Didn't know anything about playing 5 at the back. So that's probably why. It was just a very simple game. So it's a really good, easy game to get back into. Just do whatever you wish. Just spend a bit of time playing it. It's just really nice and easy. As for Football Manager, apart from the in-depth gameplay and the community, it is the community which really brings it together. The community really does show, if you were to go onto a forum or Discord and say, I need some help with this. I am being X team and I am stuck at this point. I just can't seem to finish above 7th, for example. There's suggestions, and the suggestions are not always the typical Dark Souls, get good. It is the, well, you're playing this, maybe you're playing too expansively. Look at this player's stats, potentially change that stat. Well, not change the stats, so change the way you play. So this player's only got a passing of 12. Why don't you make it play more simple, long range passing? And it's just the easy way that they will actually speak to you and help you when you get stuck. A lot of communities won't do that, but within the Football Manager community, people will do so. And generally, the other thing I really love about the game is taking a team which is mediocre or bad, maybe a League One team, and over 2 to 3 years taking them from League One into the Championship, trying to get them into the playoffs, moving them up, and you take your own joy from that because you've succeeded in a game which is very difficult. So that's another thing that I love about the game. It is just the fact that you do feel accomplished and you have done something with it once you've actually won something on the game, if you win any silverware. So yeah, they are the two main things really about it. It's the community and then just actually doing something well within the game and winning trophies. Worst thing about the game, Ultimate Soccer Manager, there has not been an updated or a brand new one since 1998. It's basically died, very similar to what EA and Ubisoft do to a lot of small developers now, because Sierra Games is the one that actually did create the game, and they did fantastically well. To the point where they actually were the company that released Half-Life onto PC. They were the team that originally did that. Obviously Steam created it, but then the publisher was Sierra. And Sierra kind of taken a back step into being just publishers for long. In 1999, I think they were taken over in 97. No, taken over in 97. And in 99, they were basically folded as a company and split into 3 different groups. But they're no longer game developing or producing games anymore, which is really sad. It was a game which had a lot of love, and if you do look around and do look at forums, people do love the game. But it's just been tarnished and taken away. I think it was League Manager Association, so LMA Manager for PS1. I believe they tried to take a mantle after that. Didn't really succeed. Championship Manager did succeed, and that was Edios with Sports Interactive, and Sports Interactive left to do Football Manager, and that's where they are now. That's why Football Manager is such a huge game, and that's why there's documentaries about it actually, and there's books basically saying that Football Manager ruined someone's life because he kind of got divorced and stuff because he took too much time playing the game. So Football Manager, worst thing about it isn't just the fact that it can ruin your life if you don't pay any attention to your significant other. It's actually, in my opinion, it's the agents and the player power in the game. A player who will only play 10 games a season will come to you and demand a new contract because the agents can do. They have 4 years left in the contract. They're on 20,000 a week, and they're a rotation/backup player. They're not going to be playing that much, and they'll go into contract negotiations, and immediately they will want £70,000. It's one of the worst things about the game is the contract negotiations. Just because of the player power and agent power, it gets stupid, really stupid, and it pisses me off when I'm trying to just negotiate a contract with a standard player, probably only going to keep him for another 2 seasons and try and sell him on, and his agent's in his ear telling him certain things. That's in a lot of the later editions. It's not really in the newer editions, not the older editions. The agent's still there and the player power is still there, but it's not as prevalent. So it's more a case of, if we can take away that, it would be great. So Football Manager 14, I believe, is the one before the Neymar transfer, and that's when the manager had control. The manager was the manager. So I prefer the older ones because of that. And also, when you look at a player who is bog standard, maybe would make it as a lower mid-table championship team, instead of spending, I believe on FM20, I think they're worth like 22 million for some reason. On FM14, you can sign that player for 3 million because that's his actual worth. And it's just the inflation within the game after a few years, and it's true to real life. So it's more of a complaint about real life football than it is the game, because the game has to take it from real life. Yeah, real life football sucks with money. Yeah.
Jack. So, Football Manager 2014. I should have known really that this would have been Jack's next choice after Dark Souls, because he's mad about football, and if you go back to our childhood, as he was discussing in his answers, I was also mad about football at one point. We were both big Leeds fans, and like he says, we used to play football in the garden of a well, any chance that we could, me and Jack and Adam as well, who's Jack's brother. And so we'd be playing football, we'd be playing football games, we'd be talking about the Leeds team, and I think in was it the last year of primary school? Me and somebody else we went to different primary schools at that point. Me and someone else had for some kind of Christmas performance or something, we had to come up with something, and I think we did some weird beatnik style poetry reading of something about Yeboah, who was a striker for Leeds at the time. So I think one of the lads had some bongos, and I would love to see a video of that. I wish it was videoed, because I bet it was absolutely hilarious. I'd be cringing into the sofa, but hey, some things are worth a rewatch. But yeah, anyway, going back to so we were both obsessed with football, and like I says, the game that I would have been playing with him would have been USM. We spent a lot of hours on that game when I was but a wee nipper. And but I don't think I ever played one of the Football Manager games. I've certainly seen them being played, because I'll have seen Jack playing them, but I never played the Football Manager series. So and he mentioned another one as well for was it the PS1 LMA Manager? I'm pretty sure I played that for some time, but somewhere in my teens I completely lost interest in football. Music became pretty much the only thing that I was bothered about, and went off to music college, and by that time I couldn't tell you a single person who played for Leeds, and so I was really not looking forward to playing this. And I think it was probably the hardest game to kind of get into. I did try. I tried first off with the Leeds team, and that was even worse, because this was probably quite a few years after I'd lost interest in football, so didn't know a single player. The menu system in this game, I mean, obviously if you're a massive football nut, you can go in and tweak just about absolutely anything you can think of to do with the tactics of formation and each individual player's role in the game. You can make set plays for you can have hundreds of them, and then just kind of dish them out as the game's unfolding on the screen. But if you're not really super into football in the first place, it's just every extra level feels like a hassle. It feels so I have to do this and this and this. And so I was first off, I tried doing it with Leeds, but then Jack advised me maybe to try with a bigger team, so I would know some of the players, and it would be a bit. And so I thought, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's try that. So then I tried going with Liverpool, who used to be kind of my B team, because my mum's side of the family is from Liverpool. So I'd supported quite a few different teams when I was growing up, mainly Leeds for the majority. But there were times when I would just support whoever was good when I was really young. I suppose maybe quite a lot of kids do. You see some amazing team or some amazing footballer, and then that's the team that you support for until you lose interest and find somebody else. So then I tried taking Liverpool through a season, and I think I got to just after Christmas in the game, and I got sacked. Because they weren't happy with the results I was getting. I did win a few games, but then I was finding it difficult to feel like I was affecting the game in any way. I would look at the training reports and try and set my formation and my squad to match what it would say would be the best the best chance that you would have of winning against the team that you're about to play. Then as you're playing, little notifications pop up on the top edge of the screen saying coaches' recommendations and things like this for say for example we seem to be losing too much possession, maybe we should play tighter, or maybe we should change some aspect of how we're playing so that we don't do that. And so I was trying to keep on top of those and hit as many as them as I thought were reasonable if I agreed with it. But they seem to pop up quite quickly as well and then go away. You could bring them back in the drop down menu, but I didn't figure that out until maybe it was too late. So yeah, I'm struggling to find things to say about this. So because really football for me is all about my childhood. So the main things that bring me any kind of joy about football, aside from maybe watching an international tournament on occasion, that can be quite like engrossing in the same way that I'll kind of jump into the Olympics or something like that. I want to say that I don't have time for it, but it's more that I don't really feel the need to make the time for it. So playing this was difficult. It was probably the game out of this four that I spent the least amount of time on, because after I really felt like I was putting effort in with the Liverpool season, and then to get fired just after Christmas, I was just like, right, no, that's it. I can't start again and go from the start again. I tried messing about with tactics. I set a couple of different formations that I thought would be effective in certain situations, like if I was playing against a team that was better rated, or if I was playing against a team that was lower rated, and I kind of switched between those two, but then kind of modified them to go with what the scouts suggested would be the best thing to do against the opposition I was about to face. And but it just didn't seem to I didn't seem to feel like I had much of an effect on what was happening in game. But I do remember not being very good at USM either. I think I would pretty much always go in and edit the stats of the players before of the Leeds team before I even started. Maybe put a couple of the players shooting up to 99 or whatever. I don't think I've ever been very good at managing sports games. But what was fantastic about even not really enjoying this game was being taken back to my childhood and having memories of just being out in the summer, kicking a ball around with some of your mates, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. And these days the equivalent of that, I suppose, would be playing games online, especially now when that's pretty much all you can do. But then I'm not really much of a competitive online gamer either, much more of a single solo kind of story driven game fan. I like to kind of get lost in a world, and but then I can also see how you could do that with a manager game as well, because it's like kind of you're in this fictional world where you're the manager of this squad, and you're going to take. I think Jack's spoken quite a bit about how he will like take a team from a lower division and gradually build them up and get them to be like one of the best teams in the country. So I can understand the appeal and progressing and getting better over time and all that kind of stuff, and knowing which kind of having a sixth sense to know which players are going to be the best to sign and which players are not. So one of the things I can really get behind that Jack was talking about was like kind of a laid back game where you can either be doing other things, maybe watching some things or whatever, and just kind of playing in the background, like you meant, like on your phone, or if you got your like laptop set up or whatever. So I really like I do that quite a lot with certain things. So maybe I'll be watching some random show on Netflix or whatever whilst playing a game. So you've got that on in the background, and you and it's really nice to have those kind of games where, or even what I'll probably do more often is stick a random playlist on, a load of really good tunes, maybe play a racing game, or play, there's all these different kind of combinations of different medias that you can have going at the same time, without kind of detracting from each experience. So yeah, overall it was just it was too much football for me. I even had it in there's like the normal mode, and then there's like a dumbed down mode, like a simple mode, and even in that I was feeling like, oh, it's just there's too many options, there's too many things to do, and basically I just want to pick a team, pick a formation and some tactics, and then get off and play a load of games and kind of see how that goes, and then tweak things to make it a little different if it's not going well or whatever. But obviously I'm not the target audience for this game. I'm someone who really is not bothered about football at all, and in fact there's quite a lot of things I really dislike about football, like especially the commentary and punditry just winds me up. Like I can't sit and listen to like football commentary, but it's not to say all sports. I can sit and listen to cricket commentary all day, but there's something about the really kind of negative attitudes of a lot of the people presenting football. I don't know, that might have changed because it's been a long time since I was last watching, but everything used to always be about how this team failed and how this player's terrible, and I don't know if it's just the people that are presenting are just jealous because they're no longer the people that are playing football and on the day, but whatever. So thanks Jack for picking Football Manager. I'm sure he was inwardly chuckling as he was picking it, but like I say, with Dark Souls off the table, I should have known that would have been the next thing that he would go to, and I did ask him to do this, and so I gave it a good shot. It was literally the game telling me to sod off because you're not good enough that made me stop, so so yeah, thanks Jack for your answers and detailed responses, and let's head on to the final game.
My favourite game is Stardew Valley. I have this on the PS Vita as well as the PS4, though I've played most hours on the PS4. It's my favourite game because I love farming games. I've always played them. My first experience was playing Harvest Moon Back to Nature on the PS1, and ever since then I just absolutely love farming games. I find them so relaxing and enjoyable. I still play it, yeah. I've got it on both platforms now, just because like when I want to play a handheld game rather than playing on a TV, I can have it on my PS Vita just to like sit wherever I want just to play it. So yeah, I still play it. I've spent an awful lot of hours playing this game. I wouldn't even be able to say how many hours because it's an awful lot across both platforms, so it is highly addictive. I haven't taken part in the community. I'm really impressed by a lot of the artwork that people make based on their adaptations of the characters. They're really impressive. Like when you look at like the communities, they are really good. In my opinion, the best thing about the game is the freedom to specialise in anything you like. For me, I really like the fishing side. I really like the challenge of going out and catching the legendary fish and finding them all. I also really like the animal side as well, because I am an animal lover. So I like all the different animals you can kind of get on your farm, and your pets as well, so your dogs and your horses and things like that. I like that it's such a chilled out game as well. You can't really do anything drastically wrong. You just need to make sure you water your crops and don't neglect your animals, basically. So I like that as well, because it isn't an intense game where you've got to really concentrate. You can kind of just go with the flow, and you know, it's just a nice easygoing game. The worst thing about the game, in my opinion, is sometimes it can be a bit monotonous. That's the only bad thing I can really think for it, really. You have to kind of be in the mood to play it, I guess. Otherwise, it can get a bit boring. But there's like times where I'm absolutely obsessed with it, and that's all I want to do. All I want to do is just play this game. And then I might get a little bit bored, like after a few weeks, and then I'll switch it off for a month, and then I'll come back to it, and I'll be really excited about playing it again. So I'll always come back to it. But to play it like day after day can be a little bit of a slog. But yeah, you'll love it. Check it out. It's a really good game. Bye!
So, Stardew Valley. Really enjoying the kind of breadth of variety that we've seen in the choices people have made for these games for this video. We've had everything from a really challenging platformer to a even more challenging action RPG title, and then the sports manager game, and now a farming simulator. So this actually took me by surprise. I kind of thought I would enjoy this because it's like Faye was saying, it's a very chilled out experience, and it's I do of late really enjoy games where you can just kind of kick back on the sofa and just kind of easy as you like, have a bit of a play around and whatever. So I'd often just have like some music on while I was playing this, or maybe watching some TV in the background whilst this is going on, which kind of touched on in the in the football manager game as well. So that's one aspect that immediately jumps out, just the kind of the chilled out kind of nature of the game. And but the other thing that Faye mentioned, which is completely spot on, is how addictive the gameplay loop is. So basically, you start out, you wake up in the morning in your house after that pretty cool little intro that you've just seen, and each day you've got to look after your plants or animals or both. So water all your plants, or plant some if you need to plant some, or till the soil or whatever, and then every next day, there'll be some form of progress, like your plant will grow a little, or or maybe a crop will come to harvest, or maybe your animals might, like if you've got chickens, they might lay eggs, and then and as you progress and unlock more abilities and the ability to craft more complex items, you can then start taking the eggs and making mayonnaise, or taking the milk and making cheese, and then from that side of things, then you start being able to combine all the different food products that you make, and then and you can start cooking and things in your house, and then you upgrade your house, you can upgrade all your tools, you can upgrade all your build more buildings on your farm, and then upgrade them, and then they can hold more animals or bigger animals, and so all that kind of progression stuff is alive and well in this game, and the kind of the loop of each day everything gets bigger or better or more or kind of thing, and it's one of those games where you kind of you've got a list of things in the back of your mind that you're doing, or a list of goals that you're kind of trying to achieve, and you always want, and it saves, I believe, at the start of each day or something like that. Can't remember now. This was the first game I played out of the 4, so it's going back a while now. I think it saves at the start of each day. So you wake up in the morning and you want to go out and check the progress of your crops or of your animals, or maybe something with the people in the town, and because you start doing something at the start of the day, then you're like, well, I want to get to the next save, so that I save what I've done, and then you get to the next save, which is the night or the morning, however you want to look at it, and then you're like, well, I may as well check out how this has gone, and then it's just this endless cycle of progression and improvement of your farm, which is it's just done so well. Everything feels very contained in this kind of retro RPG style, with all the really cool pixel art, and the sound design and music's really cool as well. So yeah, this is probably, out of the 4 games, I would probably say this is the game that I had the most enjoyment out of as I was recording these, because like I say, with Abe's Exodus, there was some kind of controller or aging kind of issues of the game itself. With Dark Souls, I'm a little bit Dark Soulsed out, and with Football Manager, I don't really like football, so this was, I would probably say this was probably the most enjoyment I had, because it was just it's like any kind of good RPG, it's this whole other world that you just get lost in. So come home from work, maybe you've had a long busy day or whatever, boot up your farm, see how you got on with stuff, and then you're instantly kind of going right. What am I going to do today? Right, okay, I need to sort out. I don't know, the pumpkin harvest or whatever, and then there's all these other kind of goals. So like, there is like a story that runs through it that's pretty cool as well, and you can get more and more friendly with the people in the village, and you can eventually like get married to someone in the village. I'm just going to check. So I've got all the NPCs here. So it was in game. From Tom married Abigail. I don't know. Maybe just because Abigail has purple hair or something, but and looked the most kind of like alternative out of all of the female characters in the town. But in any case, so there's all that side of progression as well, and then there's like kind of collecting kind of thing. So there's this kind of abandoned house, or what would you call it, like a community centre, and there's these little kind of crittery sprite kind of magical things that kind of have taken up residence there, and you collect stuff. Like different crops or different fish or different minerals and ores and stuff from the mines, and you collect all these kind of different things, and that'll give you, like, for each set that you collect, you get a different bonus, which is generally something that kind of levels up what you're doing on your farm, and then when you get all of those things kind of collected, it kind of gives the like renews the community centre, and then people start coming back into the community centre. So I would imagine there's probably at least two kind of different, I'm not going to say endings because it doesn't really end there. I think you can kind of just go on to infinity, really, just keep going through the years and making your farm better and bigger and more what's the word, more efficient. That's the word I was looking for. And so I think there's a good ending and a bad ending, and maybe a few others in between. I shot for what I thought was going to be the good ending, and I think it kind of is. Although, like I say, it's not really an ending. It's just like kind of what feels to be the end point of the main storyline. So I did get there, and I think it took me about just over a week of playing the game to get to that point, something along those lines. But still, like, there was still lots of room for things I hadn't done. I did. Faye mentioned the fishing mechanic. That was pretty cool. Did enjoy doing some of the fishing. I cleared out all the levels of the mines, which I think there was some kind of there's all these like kind of other little areas that are off, kind of you can't access from the start of the game, and I was trying to do all the things that would allow me to access all of the different areas, and I wanted to collect all of the things in this community centre, which meant unlocking a lot of those areas, if not all of them. I can't remember. I think maybe one of the fishing ones meant that I had to unlock one of the like later game areas, so that it took a fair bit of time to collect all the stuff. But like I said, it was just really laid back experience. Really, you can tell that the developers put a lot of love into making the game. There's a lot of like little like humorous things, and the dialogue can be pretty funny, and like you end up getting like a bit of an emotional attachment towards all the animals in your farm and things like that. And so so I had a really good time with this one. Much more so than some of the other games, but I did enjoy doing all of them, which is again a testament to the different wealth of different experiences you can have while playing games, which is why I think so many people do, and also why there's so much like, say for example, YouTube content centered around video gaming, and people really passionately speaking about what they love about it. It's a weird time, isn't it? Because we've got like there's so many people that have access to be able to upload their own content, whereas you don't have to go very far back in time for it to be basically, if you're not a television company with a ridiculous amount of funding, then you're going to struggle to do anything like this. I think maybe because I grew up when I was growing up, like things like CKY and Jackass were like a massive thing. Everyone, like loads of people at school were obsessed with these films of American people doing stupid things with a pretty cheap, like, you know, low budget kind of camera and everything set up. They did it really well, to be fair. I think Bam Margera was kind of one of the people who made sure that a lot of that kind of content was actually good, high quality content, rather than because if it was all these people doing stupid things with not so great like cinematography behind it, it would have been a lot. I don't think it would have stood the test of time as well as it has. But as stupid as those things were, they were really enjoyable for us, and it was one of the first times you'd see, you know, like people that you think that you related to, that you kind of thought like, oh, I know someone like that, that was on TV, like, because everything else that you would see on TV would be very highly scripted and acted out kind of thing. So yeah, it's a really interesting time to be able to have have the access for people to like speak for, I don't know, how long is this, an hour and a half, about something that they love, and share it with loads of random people online. But anyway, yeah, going back to Stardew Valley, I think overall it was just a really well thought out game. It was very well. The gameplay loop was really kind of satisfying, and and all the visuals and the sound and the writing and all those things kind of blended together really well, almost a little bit like Undertale does. Although I suppose that would blend really well all together because it's one guy doing everything. But yeah, so it was a lot of fun to play, and I probably will jump into it again at some point in time in the future, just to check out, you know, like, oh yeah, where did my farm get to and what was I doing? And then, like Faye says, it's probably one of those things you have to be in the mood for, but I would imagine when you're in the mood for it, it only takes one little like hour or 2 hour session to kind of get wrapped up back in the farm that you're making, or to start a new one or whatever. So yeah, big thanks to Aaron and Tenoki, Jack and Faye for taking time to record these videos, talking about the favourite games. Without you guys, this wouldn't have been possible, and it can be a bit tricky filming yourself. Found that out at the start of this year. It can be a little bit anxiety inducing, but thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to play these games, and also of course thank you to the game developers who made these amazing games, without which none of this would be possible, and we would all have much more dull lives, I imagine. So yeah, and thanks to you guys for watching. Obviously without anybody watching there's also a little bit of pointlessness going on, so I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed this kind of trip down a few different people's perspectives on what makes a good game, and yeah, happy gaming yourselves, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Alright, take it easy. Bye.